Greetings to you all. Today we are going to do some learning objectives. It means aim. A few we will discuss according to the needs of the teachers we can use for our topics. Enable the students to express views on a given topic. Enable the students to listen carefully to others' views. Enable the students to build participation skill. Enable the students to respond appropriately. Enable the students to take effort to communicate. Enable the students to develop interpersonal relationship. Enable the students to develop their observation skills. Enable the students to use language appropriately. Enable the students to develop their observational skills. Enable the students to enhance their organizing and sequential skills. Enable the students to develop skill of self-expression. Enable the students to express their writing skill. Enable the students to reveal linguistic competence through their writing. Enable the students to be aware of the historical sites near their locality and understand the significance of the historical monuments and places. Enable the students to develop their observational, organizing and writing skill. Enable the students to develop their writing skill. Enable the students to use the grid to reconstruct the information. Enable the students to know the various means of transport and they use to come to school. Enable the students to compare various kinds of journey and means of transport. Enable the students to show interest in the art form. Enable the students to complete the work. Enable the students to reveal originality in conception and design. Enable the students to demonstrate their aesthetic sense. Enable the students to develop empathy and sympathy. Enable the students to develop self-awareness. Enable the students to recall the keywords in the content. Enable the students to develop the skills of memorization. Enable the students to participate in the learning process. Enable the students to listen to others' reading. Enable the students to develop listening comprehension. Enable the students to listen carefully. Enable the students to pronounce the words correctly. Enable the students to understand the content. Enable the students to listen carefully. Enable the students to pronounce the words with correct stress pattern. Enable the students the ability to use appropriate gesture and body language. Enable the students to take efforts to articulate the words clearly. Enable the students to listen, draw and color the picture using following instructions. Enable the students to develop their skill of pictorial interpretation. Enable the students to listen to a description and visualize a picture in mind. Enable the students to develop the power of imagination. Enable the students to settle the class and create a conducive atmosphere for a quiet and reflective mood. Enable the students to imagine what happens in the story before and after the moment in the picture. Enable the students to create interest and attention in listening to a story. Enable the students to listen and compare the story with prediction. Enable the students to understand usage of noun. It means naming words. Naming words of person, place, thing. Enable the students to collect information. Enable the students to think creatively on a topic. Enable the students to listen to the story attentively. Enable the students to respond to specific words. Enable the students to develop concentration skills. Enable the students to scan a text for keywords. Enable the students to create an interest and attention in listening to a story. Enable the students to listen and compare the story with prediction usage. Enable the students to think creatively on a topic. Enable the students to respond to specific words. Enable the students to find out the names of difficult words in the paragraph. Enable the students to write words or phrases related to the lesson. Enable the students to converse on a given topic with their classmates and write. Enable the students to create enthusiasm and collect more information. Enable the students to respect the views of others. Enable the students to collect information. Enable the students to realize the special characteristics of birds and animals. Enable the students to think creatively on a topic. Enable the students to know the use of dictionary. Enable the students to learn the usage of phrasal verbs on the blackboard. Enable the students to copy it down in their notebook. Enable the students to look into the dictionary to find out the meanings of phrasal verbs. Enable the students to frame sentences using phrasal verbs. Enable the students to use a dictionary for reference and write on many topics. Enable the students to share their views about their favorite animals or birds or vegetables or fruits or flowers like that. To draw pictures. Enable the students to encourage to speak a few sentences correctly. Enable the students to encourage their speaking skill. Enable the students to be bold to act before a large group. Enable the students to write scripts. Enable the students to enhance their vocabulary. Enable the students to enrich vocabulary of the students. Enable the students to know word formation. Enable the students to speak boldly to a large group. Enable the students to collect materials for the given topic. Enable the students to respect the views of others. Enable the students to respond by observing pictures and infer the context. Enable the students to notice similarities and differences between pictures. Enable the students to speak freely on the given topic. Enable the students to create environmental awareness. Enable the students to use adverbs of time in different situations. Enable the students to collect materials regarding the given topic. Enable the students to respect the views of others. Enable the students to write sentences in coherent order. Enable the students to develop silent reading skill. Enable the students to develop passive vocabulary. Enable the students to understand moral values, civic sense, and social responsibilities. Enable the students to develop logical thinking. Enable the students to respond to questions appropriately. Enable the students to collect pictures and information regarding the topic. Enable the students to notice and become aware of the order of adjectives before nouns, and ask and answer questions to practice the order of adjectives. Enable the students to identify the kinds of adjectives in sentences. Enable the students to write sentences using adjectives. Enable the students to speak boldly to a large group. Enable the students to collect materials for the given topic. Enable the students to respect the views of others. Enable the students to learn the spellings correctly. Enable the students to listen and write without any mistakes. Enable the students to develop reading and writing skill. Enable the students to improve the pupils' pronunciation. Enable the students to ask yes or no questions. It means closed questions. Enable the students to develop the skill of questioning. Enable the students to infer the answers. Enable the students to participate in group activities. Enable the students to enhance peer communication. Enable the students to present a report. Enable the students to read properly. Enable the students to develop speaking skill. Enable the students to interact with one another. Enable the students to express views. Enable the students to think and associate ideas and develop language fluency. Enable the students to create interest, teamwork, creativity, and participation. Enable the students to express his speaking skill. Enable the students to develop language fluency and speaking skill. Enable the students to express one's views. Enable the students to interact with one another, participate in teamwork. Enable them to creativity, sequence, connectivity, language, and style, content presentation. Enable the students to present their skills in small groups. Enable the students to access clarity of thoughts. Enable the students to use words, sequencing, linguistic expression to access their understanding. Enable the students to improve their capacity, their imaginative and poster making. Enable the students to get involved in work with others and share their views. Enable the students to improve their attention and responsibility. Enable the students to have interest in connecting. Enable the students in learning with the role play. Enable the students in willingness to work on script. Enable the students to use props and backdrops. Enable the students to think logically and sequentially. Enable the students to express one's views. Enable the students to listen carefully to others' views. Enable the students to express with clarity. Enable them to develop speaking skill. Enable the students the power of expression and fluency. Enable the students to listen to the word and respond to understand the concept. Enable the students to collect information. Enable the students to make short notes of the lessons and sorting out important points in the lesson. Enable the students to develop interest in reading. Enable the students to use appropriate reference. Enable the students to read books with involvement. Enable the students to identify the compound words. Enable the students to enrich their vocabulary. Enable the students to focus on their ambition. Enable the students to recognize his or her strength. Enable the students to have enthusiastic recitation. Enable the students to have pause and intonation. Enable the students the ability to quote from memory. Enable the students to develop extensive reading. Enable the students to develop interest in reading. Enable the students to develop library reference skill. Enable the students to develop the skills of clear expression. Enable the students to include details where needed. Enable the students to be precise in writing. Enable the students to develop their ability to recall what they have read or learned. Enable the students to develop subject knowledge and to be quick and spontaneous and respond to be alert for listening. Enable the students to develop reference skill. Enable the students to use dictionary for various information. Enable the students to develop content knowledge. Enable the students to develop creativity and innovative spirit among the children. Enable the students to develop the skill of organization. Enable the students to reinforce the understanding of the students with respect to learn concept. Enable the students to speak or write a few sentences. Enable the students to represent ideas related to the concept. Enable the students to analyze, comprehend, recall, and synthesize the ideas related to a particular event. Enable the students to generate new ideas and present them coherently. Enable the students to use dictionary. Enable the students to develop reference skills about the idea. Enable the students to learn to discriminate the sounds. Enable the students to focus on students' attention on listening. Enable the students to learn proper, correct usage of vocabulary. Enable the students to learn to express views. Enable the students to listen carefully to others. Enable the students to use clear learning-based benefit for all members. Enable the students to cooperate with all other members. Thank you. We have discussed a few learning objectives. We can use those things in particular area. Where it is necessary, we can use these learning objectives.